Hi. As part of our fall 2025 campaign to raise our store sales to a more sustainable level, we're sharing some thoughts about how you can get it at Quabbin Harvest, whether that's getting groceries or considering how a little store like ours is part of the important work of building a food system that can nurture the land, sustain local farms, and serve everyone fairly. Get it? I want to start out by addressing what's really the elephant in the room when it comes to talking about food, which is price. It is not a secret that shopping at our store is not as cheap as shopping at the supermarket. It's also not a secret that there are a lot of people in our community and far beyond who need to be as price conscious as they possibly can when they're buying groceries. But if we're only looking at prices, we're not seeing that bigger picture of what Quabbin Harvest is trying to be and do. I think a lot of us have become aware over the last couple of decades that the price we pay for food in the supermarket doesn't reflect what we think of as the true cost of producing that food. There are a lot of environmental costs. So, for example, fertilizer runoff from big farms and livestock operations that creates problems with water and quality downstream, and even what's called dead zones in lakes and rivers and as far out as the ocean. There are costs in how we treat animals in our food system, especially at large scales. There are various kinds of public subsidy costs that aiming to keep farmers in business usually. I'm going to say more about that in another video. And most of all, we see sort of lowballing on labor costs, people not being paid fairly for what's often very hard work producing and processing and transporting food. We also kind of know, I think, most of us, that making food fairer or healthier or more ecologically sustainable adds to the cost, right? So growing meat with organic feed is more expensive for farmers. Doing it without growth hormones takes longer. It means sometimes animals don't grow as large, which means farmers have less meat to sell. Raising birds, in this case turkeys in the top left, but chickens, raising any kind of livestock at a small scale, as our friends at Diamond Farm do, cannot be as lucrative as doing it at a gigantic facility like the one in the top right there. They have huge economies of scale that the diamonds, farms like the diamonds just don't. Smaller scales can actually address some of those big problems. The problems don't get as big at a smaller scale. So the diamonds, for example, in addition to selling meat and eggs, also sell composted chicken manure, which is great for gardens and farms around. So it's recycling nutrients rather than flushing them into the water system where they become a hazard. So we're trying to move closer to something that we could think of as the fair cost, the true cost of food, including sourcing from producers that are using practices that benefit their communities and their ecosystems rather than harming them. We're trying to pay our farmers, like the diamonds, and our other vendors their own fair price rather than trying to get the cheapest possible price out of them that we can. We trust that they're charging us a fair price. And we're trying to do business with other businesses that are doing the same thing. So, case in point is Dean's Beans Organic Coffee, which has been part of our business right from the beginning. So they are based on supporting and not exploiting coffee farmers who are, and many of the farmers they work with are small scale and often indigenous coffee farmers. Coffee is a famously exploitative business where there's been big coffee companies for a long time extracting as much profit as they can from poorer parts of the world and then selling it usually in more affluent places. There's some greenwashing around that in the coffee industry now in terms of trying to make you feel like you're buying ethical or fairly traded coffee without necessarily walking the walk the way that Dean's has always done and continues to do. They also charge us, this little Quabbin Harvest store in Orange, they charge us the same wholesale price that they charge the big supermarkets that they sell into. That's almost unheard of. The industry practice is to charge the little guys a higher wholesale price for smaller orders and to give the bigger players a lower wholesale price, which completely unevens the playing field there. So Dean's is actually trying to be fair to everybody It's not easy. It's really noble, and it takes a lot of work to sustain it, to be in partnership with them, especially as a fellow co-op in Orange. So that's really what's behind the prices in our store. It's a bigger story than just the number there. We know that does not address the obvious fact that there are a lot of people who do need to be price conscious when they're shopping for groceries. And here's how we've responded to that without kind of saying, okay, we just need to be as cheap as possible, because we can't, but it's also that's not what we are trying to be. So we try to carry a full range of groceries because we do have a faithful shopper base of people who want and are able to do most or all of their grocery shopping with us. Without that base, we would have been out of business a long time ago. So that's a core of our shopping public. But we also have a lot of customers that shop at supermarkets, maybe do most of their shopping elsewhere, but have certain specific things they buy at Quabbin Harvest, which is also great, and that's fine. And that we encourage people to think about, having that kind of whatever mix works for you. So things like the organic selection or the local produce that you can't get in other stores, or maybe only at like lots of little farm stands, you can get a wider selection of it with us. Famous Rose 32 bread and goodies, that full selection of Dean's beans, we're actually the widest selection in the area at competitive prices. And then we have customers that just pop in every now and again for an item or two. So a chai or a cookie, maybe something from the kitchen for lunch, something good from the Kitchen Collaborative. And then another whole story, we have our share programs that partner with the state and with nonprofit organizations to provide high quality food at no cost to people who can't afford to access it at all without help. So things like the Healthy Incentives Program, which also benefits our farmers and suppliers because we are then able to order more from them. So we need all of those things in the mix to make the store work. At the moment, they're just not all together adding up to quite enough to keep things going. And especially with the share programs being cut back, that share income is lower, as I've mentioned in other videos. So what we're hoping for and to see in this campaign is more traffic, more foot traffic in the store, especially at that mid-level, that mixed level. Not people saying, okay, I see the light, I'm going to buy everything at Quabbin Harvest. We know that's not realistic for everybody. It may not be practical. That's fine. But to have more people finding some reason to come over more often and more regularly, because that's when you get to know a little bit more about what's here, what comes in when, learning the schedule, when does the bread arrive, when are there new kitchen items. We have a texting service. It's available in the store. You can find the number there that tells you when there's new things from the kitchen. And just to be a little more active part of the community around the store, because that's the other thing we're aiming to do. And the flip side of thinking just about the food prices is to think about the space, the trying to bring some activity into downtown Orange, and what the store is trying to be. We often talk about being a resource for everyone in our community to the extent that we can. And that's what's behind the second part of that tagline that we're talking about in this campaign. So not just get it at Quabbin Harvest, but be there for us so we can be there for you. That it's a two-way relationship, and that we really everyone can play at least a small part in that. And if we can all do that, we can together keep this store going into the future. So thank you for listening. Thanks for supporting Quabbin Harvest, and I'll hope to see you around the store.